Hey guys. Um, Bear with me, guys. I'm a little rusty. Haven't done anything in a while, and it's a little bit of a different format than what I'm accustomed to doing. I know you guys are used to me seeing me live and seeing me with other guests. Um, but I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to be by myself, um, and just kind of want to have a very candid conversation today. Um, Before I kind of go into what I want to talk about, one, I have no notes. I'm really making this up as I go. Before I kind of go in what I want to talk about, I just know haven't done an episode in about a year, so I probably have some new friends and new connections that I've made. So if you are not aware, this is called the My Brother Show. It's a podcast, web show, whatever you want to call it, in which I designed to help uplift and enrich African American and just males of color. To give them a safe space to talk about their issues, to shine on light on some taboo topics, and just to be vulnerable. It was something I started a few years ago. I had been doing the show for about 2 years strong. I took a couple of breaks but usually none as long as what happened. Now, for some of you guys who are very close to me, you know it's been a very trying year for me. So the reason that this is titled "Where You Been, Bro," obviously there's a play on brother with bro, but I don't think that I could effectively restart recording without explaining where the lapse came from in the first place. So if you had been a follower or a fan of the season, then you know that I was in the middle of a series on the 7 daily vices and how they impact men. I believe the last episode I recorded was on the topic of gluttony and how that impacts men. I either had my cousin and Dr. Pierre on, or my two good friends, Frank and Ishmael. I'm not sure which order they came in, but that was the last episode. Then I kind of just blindly stopped. And again, guys, remember, I'm literally making this up as I go. I had no notes. I've had a lot of people telling me, "Hey, you need to start it back up. You need to start it back up." So I've been kind of fighting it, and then more recently, and I'll get to it more recently, I just kind of made the decision I had to get back to some of the things that I loved and enjoyed doing, and this was one of those things. So let's kind of start from last year and talk about what kind of got me to this point. So last year, in the middle of, let's say I was probably on like month 3 of my 3rd or 4th season, and I just kind of abruptly stopped with no explanation to you guys. And first, let me apologize. I think that self-doubt is very real, right? And lack of confidence is very real. And there are times where you can feel like you're not doing the good work. So there's been many people who have reached out to me within the last year to push me to get back to doing it, to say that it was helpful, to say that it was something that I need to do. So thank you guys, whoever you are. And even in the post that I put up this morning, just saying I'm going to start doing the show, I think last I checked, it had close to 90 likes and about like 15 celebratory comments. Things like that matter. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your encouragement. The last year, around October, I found out, and I mean, obviously we all have things going on in our lives, right? But last year around October, I just kind of living life like usual, and found out I had my 3rd child on the way, by 3rd different woman. From a financial standpoint, I just wasn't prepared. From a housing size standpoint, I had literally just moved into a bigger space to accommodate. If you guys were followers, you probably remember me talking about it live. I had just moved into a bigger space to accommodate the 2 children that I had. So the 3rd children a third child on the way by a third different woman. I was very obviously not planned, right? I know, some people think that all kids are planned. They're not. So I slipped into a really, really bad rut surrounding that, right? So initially, I think actually my last episode, now that I think about it, my Bible episode when I was on with my cousin and Dr. Mary, I remember I was probably crying like 15 minutes before the episode started, and I was thinking about just canceling it altogether. But I already promoted, I already booked the guests, and I wanted to be respectful to their time and respectful to people who were looking forward to the episode. So I kind of pushed through, but you would never know if you watched that episode that maybe like 15 minutes before I went live. I was just crying because I just couldn't believe that my life had come to that point. To this point, and I'm not, blaming the lady. I'm not absolving myself of blaming anything like this. Obviously, it takes two to tango. So you find out you have your third child on the way. From a financial standpoint, just didn't have it. Honestly speaking, didn't have it. Was very much struggling to make ends meet. I had to borrow money to move into the apartment that I had moved in. It's just financially, it was no way that was happening. I was very excited to be in a bigger space, actually, and to have more room in my apartment. So to kind of find out, like, man, like we worked so hard to get into this bigger space, Maurice, and it's already like time to look for an even bigger space. It was frustrating. I was very disappointed with myself. So I slipped into a pretty bad rut during that time, and like depression set in major. And there are some people, particularly guests who you guys have probably seen on this show. I won't name them specifically. Well, there's one guy in particular I'll name, but I'll get there. Some really close friends, man. If you don't have a network, a family, of friends, or people around you to help you through those tough times, I highly recommend you doing it, because they literally were the only things that kept me afloat. I'm talking about calling me at work, conversation, checking on me. At one point, guys popped over to my apartment to make sure that I was okay, because I'm just so depressed and so down. I was crying constantly. Remember one day I literally cried straight through. I had an hour-long lunch break at that time. Shout out to the hour-long lunch break. And one day I like legitimately just cried. Like literally cried. That this was happening. November was probably when it got the hard. So in November, and just to take a step back, it's obviously part of the frustration with the pregnancy was this was someone that I did not intend on being with romantically, as far as like a relationship is concerned. So this would be something that I'm sorry guys, this would be someone that I wouldn't be with. So, and due to my own personal upbringing, I personally, more power to people who make the decision. I'm personally not an advocate for staying for the sake of the child. I've tried it before. It didn't work out well for me. So that just wasn't a thing for me personally. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, 3 children, 3 different women, no money, like you're a cooked bun out here. So in November, it kind of hit a really low point. And I remember I had my son with me. And I had just moved, and you guys know my son has special needs. He wasn't completely comfortable with the apartment yet. It took some time to get him adjusted there. So he was still sleeping in a bed with me at night. So he's laying in a bed with me. We're knocked out. And I was dreaming about committing suicide. And I woke up maybe like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I rolled over and I looked at him and I said, well, I would never expose him to this. So I'm okay. Like I'll make it through the weekend. It was a Saturday night. I was like, I'll make it through the weekend. So I'll never expose my son through this. But when I drop him back off to his mom, it's just me there, then it's going to be tough. So, Sunday comes and goes like pretty normal. Monday, I'm sitting at work, typical 9 to 5 schedule. Around 4:30, I'm sitting there, and I wish I had a mask around me to show you, but I don't use my shirt. I'm sitting at work, and like 4:30, I just start bawling, like legit, like sitting there bawling at my desk at work. I had my mask pulled up like this high so my coworkers can't see. That's a nice nifty trick. If you ever want to cry in public during COVID, just pull your mask up super high, and try not to do like the ugly cry shake. And I'm sitting there, and my boss at the time, the guy, he did walk over. He's like, "Yo, you okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." But I'm just like crying at my desk. I half an hour before I leave because I knew in my mind like I was gonna walk out of this shift and never come back tomorrow. And I was gonna get home and I was gonna lose this battle to depression and suicide. Um, so I leave work and something told me to reach out, like such as reach out one last big sports guy, football, one last Hail Mary. So I have a friend who owns a suicide nonprofit, and I just reached out to one of my good male friends. And my good friend, I said I don't even know when I dropped. He's been a friend of the show. I've been a friend of his podcast, Two Kings podcast. Actually, I think he's doing Life Be Lifing as well. Check him out. Just a good friend, and mine is 4:30. I get off of work at 5. And my drive is all in 10 minutes. And I pretty much, if you're a big fan of basketball, you remember when Eric Bledsoe was playing for Phoenix, the Suns, he wanted to leave, and he tweeted, "I don't want to be here." And so me and Ari are both big sports fans. So I screenshot the tweet and I sent it to him on Instagram and said, "I've been feeling like this every day for the last month." And he called me and said, "Yo, what do you need from me? Don't give me no bullcrap. Tell me right now, what do you need from me?" He met me at my apartment, and stayed with me until almost midnight, that night. And before he left, he prayed, and man, I'm trying not to get emotional. One big thing that he said to me before he left was, he said, you can't let the low moments take away from the high moments. So he said, "I know how you feel right now about the child, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you were able to get this apartment. That what doesn't take away from the fact that you have running water, you have working electricity. It doesn't take away from those things." And he said, you have to keep track of the wins and stop letting the losses detract from them. Which is challenging, right? Like, because part of my thing was I felt like every time I started to build myself up and good things happen, something bad would come to knock me off. And I just saw that this was another example of that. And he was like, "Every day you have to find a win." He said, "I don't care if you were trying to get over in traffic one day and someone stopped to let you merge it. Count that, hold on to that win, because that might be what you need to get through the day." So I kind of adapted that. And I've told Nari privately, and I've actually told him publicly on his own podcast. But thank you. Thank you. You literally saved my life that day. But, needless to say, I decided that I needed to take some time off, right, to get my head on straight. Like, in no space right now to run this show, especially in the gravity of topics and the way that I've been able to run it. Like, you need to take some time off to run your space. So anyone who's been a fan of the show, I do apologize for just kind of vanishing abruptly like that. But it was just take some time off to get your head on straight. Some months came, went. January comes, have a death in the family. My aunt, it's pretty sudden. I'm sorry, actually, my aunt passed 2 days after Christmas, but the funeral was held in January. Um, April comes, I lost a good friend of mine, who's another guy that you guys saw on the show, actually. If you watch the episode, Heartbreak, his story, you'll see my good friend Juice. He passed away in April. Another Sutton passing. However, I will say in March, got a huge career opportunity. So that helped to alleviate some of the financial stress with the huge career opportunity. So that was kind of like a good thing. In February of this year, my son started going to the bathroom independently at my apartment, which was another huge, victory. So it wasn't like it was all bad, but it was very much me like, okay, you have to get your handle straight and make sure that you're doing okay right now, which I just wasn't. And baby was due in June, so I know like, okay, cool, you got to June to get your handle straight, because not being in the house, life isn't an option. Let me take a quick sip. So Juice passes away in April. Closer to the time that the child was born, I actually had started brainstorming how to revamp and how to bring the show back, because again, it was something that I realized then that I needed to do something that gave me enjoyment. I had felt like I had made some good strides mentally. I had a bout with COVID back in April, which was tough. I wasn't hospitalized or nothing, but I was definitely like sitting down on my butt for a while. So I did have that after the bout with COVID. I was like, okay, cool. We got to get back to this. I had some amazing people pushing me to do it, and I started to revamp. Think of how the show. It was going to be something similar to this, right? But if you're anybody who's talked to me or been friends with me on Facebook or any social media platform, then obviously my mom passed away in July. Again, very sudden. I literally 4 days before, the weekend that she passed, she was supposed to be babysitting my children while I went out. And, it was tough. And even before that, actually, let me rewind. See, this is what happens when I don't write my notes. So the baby was born in June 11th. My beautiful baby girl, sorry, was born. And then July 10th, my mom passed away. But on July 7th was when we found out that she was, unresponsive and had to rush her to the ICU. My mom was 64 years old. My mom was still employed full time. It was very sudden. After my aunt passed away, I talked to my mom probably like 3 or 4 times a week anyway. Frankly, if you watch any episode of this show from the start, you know for a fact the relationship me and my mom had, because she was always the first comment. Always, hey son, the first comment every time I did it. So, and we talked every day, just about every single day after my aunt passed away, because her and my aunt was really close, and I made it my point to check in on her. And if you follow the show, you also know my father passed away 12 years ago. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but like I don't have any living grandparents either. I'm 34. And it's like no parents, no grandparents. You have this new child. You can't do this show right now, Maurice. You can't. Like, what are you gonna do? So my mom passes in July when I'm just thinking about revamping the show, and I kind of shelved it again. Can't do this right now. I'm a wreck. And some other things, transpired in August. A couple more deaths in August, namely being Deacon Jairus Hughes, who, if you have heard me speak about my involvement in church, or in particular in the men's ministry in church, I equate a lot of that to Deacon Jarris Hughes. He was the one that kind of put me in the position that I was within the men's ministry. He passed away suddenly as well too. I woke up one morning, opened up Facebook, and saw that his wife was posting "Rest in peace" to him. That was tough. And then, about two weeks ago or so, my pastor also passed away. So it's been a year that's been really, really, really riddled with death and loss. On top of me battling my own depression, on top of me trying to get acquainted to a third child, on top of me, and I haven't mentioned much about this, but also, having a budding relationship, romantic relationship, it's just been a challenge to mentally get my head on straight. And it's funny because I've been on this show numerous times advocating for therapy and mental health and getting help and all of those things, right? And then I get to this point and I don't really do any of that. I had a couple of times where I did reach out to therapists. I didn't really hear anything back. I talked to one therapist fairly recently, actually. He actually seemed pretty cool, but I didn't love the vibe that I got from him. So I am continuing my search right now for a therapist to talk to. But it was just a really trying year of loss. And you get to this point, they say the old cliche is you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's really how I felt. Like, I had nothing. I love my pastor. I actually, when my dad passed away, my pastor's son said, "Hey, I know your dad passed away, but you guys can share minds." And from that moment forward, called my pastor Pop. P-O-P, Pop. Even the last conversation I had with my pastor was a few weeks before he passed. And it lasted all of 2 minutes. And I just said, "I love you, Pop." I said, "I love you too, son." This has been a challenging year. So that's kind of where I've been mentally. That's kind of where I've been the last year. And I'm very, very, very much still fighting through those things. Today actually marks the 3-month anniversary of my mom passing. I promise y'all that wasn't intentional. It's coincidental. This probably won't air until a few days later, though. But I'm recording this on the 10th. It's been a huge challenge with mental health, but I think that in the midst of it, because I can't even say that I'm on the other side of it, I'm very, very, I might not even be in the middle yet. I might still be in the first 25% of it. It's amazing. Like people are amazing, man. If it's one takeaway that I have, is that like people are freaking amazing. Like my friends, some of the things that they have done for me in this past year, from like making sure I eat on any particular day, coming over on any particular day. My good friend, one of my good friends, is in a military station in California. He caught a red-eye flight from California to Philadelphia after my mom passed away, just to be here with me. People have just been incredible in this time. Even now, like I still have people who reach out to me. One of those times I clicked on the screen was because a message popped up on the screen from someone saying like, "Hey, how are you holding up?" So as I kind of begin this grief process, this healing process, this healing journey, man, like I would urge anyone who's going through anything, and it doesn't have to be grief or depression, like you need a community around you. You need a community around you. You do not need to isolate yourself from that community in a time of need. A couple of weeks ago, one of my friends literally, "Hey, like, why aren't you talking to us? Like, why are you going through all this stuff without saying anything?" So identifying that community and leaning on them in a time of need is something that's very, very, very essential. The second takeaway I have from this, and y'all remember, I don't have any notes. I'm literally making this up. The second takeaway that I have from this is life is short. Like it's short. My dad was 60 when he passed. My mom was 64 when she passed. I'm 34. I feel like the past 34 years have kind of flown by like this. I feel like we're already in October, and I feel like I was just sitting at my aunt's funeral back in January. If I am to look at my parents' life expectancy, and let's just say the same is for me, I'm to pass away in my early 60s. Like, I don't have that, like, there's not that much time left. So petty grudges, petty differences, bickering, arguing, pushing off goals and plans and things like that, pushing things to a side, man, just get on it. You got to do it. And that's what vaulted me to get to this point here. Like, how long can I keep saying, oh, I'm not ready mentally, oh, I'm not ready mentally? There's a good chance that my heart never heals. I just lost my mother, you know. Mentally, I may never get back to the point that I was. And even if I did, this is triggering. My mom was the first comment on every single episode. My mom would call me at 7:01 if she couldn't find a video on Facebook. This is very triggering, which is part of the reason I've opted to go to pre-recorded route this time, because I don't really want y'all to see me crying live. And you almost got me. But life is too short, man. To put all things for procrastination, for petty grudges and beefs, it's just not worth it. One of my mentors was telling me about when his mother passed. His father said to him, like, the hardest thing for me in dealing with your mother passing isn't necessarily the death, is all the time I wasted being angry, all the time I wasted bickering, all the time I wasted not talking. I wish I could have those moments back now. So just let it go, man. Let it go. Make that phone call. Apply for that job. Get that promotion. Take that business venture. Do it. Life is short. It could be gone. Like, literally, of I can think of 7 people who I personally knew this year who passed away. Only one of them were sick. Only one of the 7 people were actually sick. And even the one that was sick, the sickness kind of ramped up starting this year, like really ramped up starting this year. It's too short to put stuff off, man. You gotta do it. And the last takeaway I have is acknowledge your weakness, right? Like, acknowledge your weakness. Acknowledge that it might not, but you learn to adjust. Like, it might not get better. Certain things might not improve, but you can adjust to them. Have a bottle right here. Me having a bottle of water. Water takes the shape of the container that it's in, right? Like, and drinking some. There's not going to be any more water put back in here because I just drunk some, but the water still adjusts. I squeeze it, the water still adjusts. So I can squeeze this bottle because it's been through some stuff now. But look, now the water is actually higher because the water just adjusts. That doesn't take away from the fact that I squeezed it or dented it, but there's still more water because it was able to adjust. So acknowledging that weakness, acknowledging that stuff is going to happen, stuff is going to misshape you, stuff is going to look to knock you off. Recognizing it's not so much about what knocks you down. It's not so much about what squeezes you out of shape, but it's about how you adjust to those things. Um, I have a long ways to go before, if ever, right, I get back to a space of feeling okay, whatever okay means, right? Honestly, how I feel right now, I feel like I may never be okay. Like, I have no living parents. I have no living grandparents. My mom was very much like that centerpiece. Like, my mom's house is the place that people went to link. So I have family members who I won't be seeing as frequently anymore. Um, I still call my mom, grab my phone to call my mom, at least 3 times a week, tell her about something that happened and realize that I can't. So it might not improve. I don't know how I'm going to come to grips with that. And even to that, same factor, like my father's been gone for 12 years now. I still want to talk to him. I still get sad every year around September. Um, I still miss him. I still want him to see, meet his granddaughters and see where his grandson is. See, he passed away when my son was about 2, 1 or 2. So I know I have a ways to go, but in acknowledging that, that's the strength, right? And I've said it before, strength isn't pushing through and ignoring what you're feeling. Strength is acknowledging, like, no, I'm not okay right now. I'm not. And to those who have been texting me and checking up, you can probably see in my responses, like, I'm not responding to people who say, hey, how are you doing? I'm not saying, hey, I'm okay. I'll give a response something like stretching and surviving. Just like a duck on the pond. They say the ducks on the pond, they look really calm up top, but you look at the feet are kicking like this underwater. I've given responses like that intentionally. Part of the reason I've also slowed down on some of my social media usage is typical. I know more recently I've been kind of trying to get back into it because I don't want to post like I typically have and put out the facade that I'm okay, because I'm not. I'm not doing okay. But that's the strength, right? That's where the strength lies. The fact that in this space of weakness, in this space of brokenness, in this space of grief, in the space of feud and altercations, for some of the things I haven't mentioned, and all these things pressing down, I'm able to look at myself in the mirror and say, like, you don't got it right now, man. Like, you need to take a step back. This weekend, I was able to look at myself and say, hey, you have to figure out what you love doing and get back to doing it. You don't love laying on the sofa and laying in silence. You don't love turning on TV and looking at a blank screen, staring at your phone and scrolling 7 million times just to try to keep your mind distracted. You love helping people. You love building men up. You love spending time with your children. You love playing video games. You love spending time with your friends. You love joking, smiling, laughing, having a good time. Get back to that, bro. Get back to that space, because that's going to be how you get through this. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments where you cry. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments where you hurt. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments where you want to quit, you want to throw in the towel. I had those moments. As recently as this past weekend, I kind of got in the car with my daughter, and I wanted to go to my mom's house. And while the house is still an option, my mom isn't there. I kind of like literally aimlessly drove around for like a half an hour before I ultimately ended up going to my brother's house. But like, there's a hole there though, right? So that's okay. And I know people kind of default to, oh, it gets better. It gets better. Personally, with death, I'm not an advocate of that. just not. I don't think it gets better. I think you adjust. So this is me. So I can adjust like this, or I can be, just like that. While not trying to do better, I'm getting squeezed and pushed and just kind of sit there. All right, good. And rise, no matter how hard they push me. So I said I only want this to be a half an hour. I'm pushing 40 minutes. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up. I've never used this pre-record and post feature before, so I don't know how well it's going to work. I hope it works. And I mean, I would love if you guys gave me feedback what you thought about it. I'm not sure what my schedule will be. I know before I was every other Wednesday at 7. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to that schedule moving forward. I do know that at least immediately I'll jump back into the 7 Deadly Vices series. I think I'm going to kind of stick to kind of this realm, at least for the first few episodes. But more are coming. I'm back. I feel good right now. Not only have I not been recording, I think I've only done one other show in the last year. So it feels good right now, and that's why I'm over my time. It actually feels good to do this. So if you're still here, thank you so much for listening. If you had to tap out early, thank you so much for listening. If you just scroll by and gave it a like and act like you liked it, listen, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for all those who have been there, from not just myself, but my brother, my sister, my nieces, my nephews, my children, just our whole family in this tough time. We haven't had a death before my aunt and my mom on my mom's side of the family in almost 25 years. So it's tough when you go that long stretch with no one passing, and then you lose 2 boom key figures. So just kind of keep our family in your prayers. In particular, keep me in your prayers too. There's a lot going on. Hopefully in the coming episodes I'll be even more than this. But thank you again, guys, for your pushing. Thank you again, guys, for just your support. And I love y'all, man. I really do. All right, the clock about to hit 40 minutes on the nose. I'm gonna get off before that. Thank you guys. Signing off. Bye.